name is Raj Mondol, and I am working with TRACI. Just to introduce the topic of faith at work. Uh, Many times, as Christians, we don't keep them connected. We live our weekdays from Monday to Friday or Saturday. That is our earning our livelihood, engaged in our respective profession, a work sphere that we have chosen. And that is something that we do perhaps to earn our bread in the common expression. And then Sunday, we are part of a community called church, and where we express our faith, we profess our faith, and some of the beliefs that we hold, and we receive teaching on those. But often the teachings that we receive in the church do not connect to what we do on the rest of the week. And likewise, we keep them separate as if in two different compartments. And we live our lives in one way from Monday to Friday or Saturday. And we have a different set of life on Sundays. And in between, maybe if we have some other activities, then on the weekdays also we may bring in our church life into the weekdays. But usually they go like two parallel railway track. They don't meet. So today's topic would like to explore what it means to express or what it means to live out our faith in the places of our work. How do we integrate the two? How do we see that is part of us as one person who we are? And to do that, we have Miss Ravali. Ravali, by her study profession, she has done engineering, but then she's a mechanical engineer by training, but she switched to being a development practitioner for about last 10 years. She leads an organization named Esther, which perhaps she is a founder of that organization along with friends. A social purpose organization that enables young Bahujan, Dalit, and Adivasi women to have a voice and choice in their lives and aspirations. Esther has been working across rural Telangana, transforming how first generation learners navigate their transition from college to adult life through programs focused on building their life skills, future readiness, communication, and mentorship. So this kind of a work they do with young people in Telangana. And she has experience primarily in mobilizing people and resources for collective action in areas of education and livelihood. She was trained at Indian School of Development Management, where she built knowledge, perspective, and skills required for principled and value-driven leaders working towards social change. So it's good to see at a very young age how we have these social entrepreneurs very much interested in building the lives of young people and mentoring them. And having experienced individual prejudice and deep systemic inequalities firsthand as a Dalit Christian woman, she is dedicated to working at the intersection of gender and caste and hopes to make systems work for the many and not just the few through everything she does. So this is something which we want to hear more from her experiences. Ravali also deeply loves Hyderabad, her city, and it must include the Hyderabadi biryani and so many other delicacies that Hyderabad serves, I guess. She loves math, hand percussion instruments, handloom, word puzzles, and also she is aspiring to be a stand-up comedian. She is doing that role sometime, and she wants to engage more in this stand-up comedy, gardening, and reviewing Telugu movies using satire as a medium. So I was very pleased to meet a person who has wit, humor, satire as gift, and which they want to engage in their work in the community. So I welcome you, Ravali, to this discussion. So, Ravali, you were training to be a mechanical engineer. What happened in between? You made a course change, and what led you to this work that you are currently involved in? Would you like to share?
Yeah, thank you, Raaj sir. I think second year or something of mechanical engineering. I studied in Hyderabad, by the way, and Hyderabad engineering colleges are very notorious to be very, very casteist in general. Even our college names are like uh, after caste names. For example, Malla Reddy, Reddy is a caste name, and Gokaraju, Raju is a caste name. That's the college that I went to. So I didn't realize I essentially grew up in institutions, schooling and high school, intermediate we call it here, in institutions where actually most people were from marginalized caste background. So I've not even experienced, like for a lot of people, they don't know caste or they don't see caste because they are usually in privileged sections. For me, it was the opposite, where I mostly grew up with people from marginalized caste backgrounds, and so even church as well, similar sections, right? And so I never really saw prejudice or difference based on caste. But then in mechanical engineering was the first time I saw both, I think, just sexism and casteism very directly, where people would just, for example, mechanical engineers in general have to use a lot of like heavy lab equipment and machinery and things like that. Some of us were not allowed to do that. Like some of the women were not allowed to do it. So we're there to learn, but then we were disallowed from, even just exploring what that means and stuff. And with coming to casteism, obviously there's institutional stuff, but then there used to be professors who would directly say, like, what is your caste, like who are you, what, like in Telugu it's called Miremitlu, means like what people are you. They would just ask, and then based on that, like form an opinion of us and things like that, which to me was very, very both shocking, and I think it destroyed a lot of the confidence that I used to have as a younger person. And that's when I think eventually I decided that a career in this is going to be much harder, and I don't see an area to like uh, and a future in this in some way. And I decided to shift to management, actually, in the sense that I wrote cat, I got through some couple of like IMs and stuff like that, and I was on that path and decided to appear for that exam again. Meanwhile, I found Teach for India, and Teach for India essentially places people for 2 years full time in disadvantaged schools and classrooms, right? Essentially in government schools or low income private schools. I didn't know at that point that people do this full time. I didn't know that people pursue these careers because as a STEM person, I was very clear on my direction and I knew careers in that area. So when I saw this, and there were also a couple of incidents that happened where I ended up in a school, low income private school, close to where I stay, and just my own sense of privilege and the fact that I got to go to a school that has English education, all of that, even though I experienced like prejudice later in my life, but the fact that I even had access to primary education, my parents were educated, they encouraged me to study, like all of that, I think I could place myself in society and see that I'm actually fairly privileged, even though I've experienced these things. So I decided that this is very interesting work, and I don't know if I'd get to do this work in like a corporate or anything. Not to diss that, I think that's important too, but I think for me, I just found that this I would like to spend more time in looking at like complex societal issues that don't seem to have one answer, like those of us who study science are taught, right? So just wanted to stay in that and explore that, and that eventually just cemented my decision to stay back in the development sector. I think just seeing that there's so much to do and there's so many people doing this, and we need more people to do this. So yeah, that's been my journey.
Thank you so much. So in your sharing, I think you have already highlighted some of the issues that our people face at work. So you have very clearly indicated about this caste discrimination and those attitudes that one has to face and how to deal with it. Along with caste, the whole sexist attitude that you have encountered, experience, and that already we are reading in the newspaper how this sexist attitude is making the workplace so unsafe for our women, and the whole protest that is going on, that we all are hearing and we are familiar with. So I think you have already highlighted some key concerns which women at work face, and especially for people, those who come from the marginalized communities. It becomes a kind of a double jeopardy type. So, Ravali, I would like you to answer. Maybe if you want to share a little about how faith influences your work, or how it made some kind of influence in choosing what you are doing. But also, I want you to share a little some of the challenges and struggles you have faced when you are guided by your faith in your workplace or whatever you do. So what some challenges you have encountered on account of that? So two part of your answers. Yeah.
Right. First part, I think initially when I joined the sector, I didn't do it from a faith perspective, right? Like I had a very like I thought this was meaningful work and I wanted to get involved. I think only when I got some amount of humanities training, where I started asking a lot of these questions as to um, nothing in our history actually points to the fact that all humans are created equal, right? And just exploring these questions of equality, what does justice mean, what does dignity mean, why do humans have inherent dignity, and all of these things, right? And Dr. Dominic also spoke about like why would a good God allow so much suffering in the world. All of these questions, just sitting with them, I think reading about these actually led me to the Bible in such a strong way, where we see how God has actually asked us to be, us as in humans, to be partners and stewards of um, justice in this world, justice and love and shalom, peace in this world, and so many things. And just the fundamentals of each human is created, every human is created equal, has dignity, because we are all foundationally image bearers of the living God. So I think just even sitting with those complicated questions and letting those sort of guide my study in the development, be it theories, be it what does agency mean, what does capability mean, what does choice mean, all of that. I think that's when I really strongly sort of started my, I shouldn't say second innings because it was fairly early in my career, but then really I think my journey as a development practitioner started there, where I think my foundation was very much was clearer as to why I'm doing what I'm doing, and how does my understanding of who we are and our role as followers of Jesus and all of that. I think that to be salt, to be light, to create order, and to participate in ordering the world in a certain way, to make it beautiful, to make it to invite God to invite the kingdom in whatever we do, essentially. I think that's just the principles that I work with in, even now at Esther as well. I think the foundations of how I even run the organization, there are so many things, there are so many ways in which people sort of get ahead and like, do things in the nonprofit sector. But I think just letting faith guide it, not thinking of my work as I need to go save someone, or I need to go from somewhere and just come from outside and like create some meaning for someone. I think that's not the attitude, but really just listening and being there, and walking with people, walking with the students, the girls I work with, the women I work with, and yeah, being sort of like an akka, right? Being a friend, being an akka, being that kind of a person first, instead of just saying that, this is what you need to do, this is how you need to live your life, and things like that, which is what even just, that's how God invites us as well to, walks with us and doesn't say like, this is what you need to do, and just letting love sort of guide everything that we do. I think that's the first part of the question. Second part of the question with challenges, I think this is a place where there's so much, people see so much brokenness, right? Very similar to even like medical care as well. Brokenness is just um front and center day in day out. So it's very easy for people, I've seen with colleagues, with peers, to actually start questioning a lot of just what is divine, who is God, what is this, all of that. And a lot of them also go into actually my experience has been that the majority of my peers are either atheists or agnostic, atheists and stuff like that, which it's fine, their beliefs. But then it's also looked at as suspicious if any of us are following sort of, any of us have faith as a very core thing, right? We also know that some of the religions in India, they there are very like certain kinds of practices that we don't want to advocate for and stuff like that. And again, like even the understanding of Christianity as a colonial sort of project, that is also a sort of, that also takes center in terms of the conversation. So I think just how it is personal for me, how faith is very personal for me. I think I had to be very discerning about what spaces I speak what in, and just how I open up and stuff like that. And none of my practices, none of my work is explicitly only serving Christians or anything like that, right? It's for everybody. So I think just navigating is, even when I named my organization Esther, it's only one of the two reasons why I named it Esther. Like Esther, inspired by the Bible, is one of the two reasons. Another reason is that one of our students very early on, we were very inspired by her journey, and her name was Esther. So a lot of times I get asked this question: is this a Christian organization? I'm like, no, like we don't ask this question to like other organizations with a certain kind of like name with a probably a religion tag, right? So I think it just gets tricky, but then there's like tact and discernment. I feel like I've like spoken too much in certain spaces and like put myself in trouble. But I think again, just navigating this with discernment and with other people who have navigated these spaces before, I think it is challenging to be very explicit about faith values and let them implicitly guide our work. But yeah, I think that's how I would answer the question.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Ravali. I think in the answering the first part of the question, I really like the way you have grappled with those lexicon of the development sector, like dignity, justice, equality, equity, with a theological reflection on that, and how you grapple with those issues as to what in our understanding of God, how he connects to all this brokenness that we see, that is on our face every day. So I really appreciate that you took those hard questions, the hard realities that you encountered, and sought answers to that through your reflection of the word. And I think that's very, very important and very inspiring, especially as we want to encourage that process. And in the second part also of your answer, you shared about what kind of a challenges for to stand in the marketplace, in the marketplace of ideas, in the marketplace of work, whatever we do, where our association with a particular faith may itself be questionable in the minds of the people, or suspect, in fact, as you said. And then how do you stand? How do you demonstrate what you believe, your convictions, your values, the principles that you stand for, how it works out in the organization that you serve in? I think that's a very, very important learning journey. What we have observed, I think all of us will agree with that Christians have largely stayed away from engagement in active politics. So in your observation, what are some of the reasons for this? And why do you think it is important that Christians should be more actively involved in politics or play the role of an active citizen?
Yeah, I think this question has to be like uniquely based on the context. I think I'll just speak as Indian Christians, maybe. I think for us, we are like definitely a minority in the country, and there is a real sense, at least in the recent past, of we don't want to be on the radar of political leaders or whatever else. So there's that aspect, especially with marginalized sections, right? To say that we don't want to be on the radar of people who are looking at these things and like flagging conversions and things like that, and we don't want to be on that. Another, definitely, I think there is a belief that is like very widespread, that politics is very dirty and very it's just very corrupt and it's dirty and stuff like that. Recently I attended a talk by one of our MPs, who is the Tiruvallur MP, Mr. Sendil. He said that in an organization, if good people have been pushed out for 70 plus years, and bad people or like incompetent people or whatever have been taking up space, obviously the institution will be rotten, right? That's just how it is. And so I think it's a reinforcing cycle, right? Like if we think that it is rotten and if it is dirty and if it is immoral, then someone has to fix it. Someone has to fix, as in someone has to do something about it. I think our reaction somehow has been the opposite, to say like, let's go far from it and just like not be engaged at all. And it's considered as like not very respectable for some reason. And I think there's also a sense of painting all politicians in a certain way. I think it's also a narrow understanding of politics, like Jenny mentioned when she spoke, to say that only electoral politics is active citizenship or active political engagement, which is not true, right? Like I think what all of us are doing is active citizenship as well, and doing the work of justice, doing the work of healing. All of these is active citizenship. Somehow there is a divide to say that like this is what is holy and this is what is secular, like the secular spiritual kind of a divide, right? And I think we need to really challenge that and push that understanding, and really question that. I think that we have some like phenomenal examples of faith leaders doing amazing work among people, among communities, among like who have worked for the rights, for the development of people, right? But I think we just don't talk about these as important enough figures. Like for example, Father Stan Swami, we don't talk about him as inspirational in church circles, but in outside circles, like he's actually such a great leader that people speak about and really want to follow the footsteps of, right? So yeah, I think like role models and just this divide and narrow understanding of politics, narrow understanding of mission, of what we are called, who we are called to be as followers of Jesus, and the work that we have to do in this world. I think those are all the reasons I could think of. And I think it is like super important, like I said, to your second part of the question, it is super important for us to participate in whatever way we can, because again, I think Jenny mentioned this, that all of these are very part of who we are as followers of Jesus, right? Or as people who are participating in the kingdom of God. It's not that we only attend church, as in like we attend Sunday gathering and then that's just our life of being a Christian. But this work is ushering in justice in the world. And one of my favorite verses that I like speak about every time. I mean, in general, minor prophets are like really good to sort of reflect and read on. A lot of just justice themes come up there, but just walk humbly, love mercy, and do justice. I think that is one of the things that says like, what does Yahweh ask of you? It is these things. So it couldn't be clearer. Even if you read that verse fully out of context, it's fairly straightforward. So I think we need to really take that seriously and inspire people to get back to really reflecting on what the Bible says and who we are, and playing that out in the world in whatever ways we can as active citizens.
Thanks, Ravali. I think very, very clear. You already identified some key reasons why Christians have normally shied away from active engagement. Just like, I think one thought I would like to leave, many times we pray for missionaries serving in Orissa, in Uttarakhand, in Rajasthan, and all that. But we need to pray for our missionaries who are also doing God's mission in working for justice, in working for bringing dignity in the life of, which is equally part of the gospel of the kingdom.